Chapter 2. Hearing my alarm go off, I grumbled as I turned it off, lying in bed for a moment until the fog cleared from my head. I got up and made my way to the coffee pot. Looking at the clock, it was 3 in the afternoon, enough time to eat something and take a shower before I get ready for work. Thankfully, Derek will be picking me up. Walking over to the window, I let out a sigh. There was no way I was going to be able to clear all the snow that had piled up while I was asleep. There had to be at least 2 feet of snow in my driveway and sidewalk. I thought about calling in tonight, but if I knew Tom, he would make sure I was picked up and brought in. He hated working on his own or with Tiffany. Tom was a stickler for routine, and if anyone deviated from it, that would set him on a downward spiral, and I wouldn't hear the end of it for a good 2 weeks. The coffee pot beeped, letting me know it was ready. I poured myself a cup and sat on the couch in the family room. After a few minutes, I heard a scraping noise. I got up and went over to the window. I couldn't believe it. There was Derek and 2 others clearing my driveway and sidewalks. I opened the door when I saw Derek walking up. "Thank you for this, but you didn't have to," I said. "I know, but I also know that with this amount of snow, and they're predicting a ton more, this way you won't be snowed in," he said with a wink. I smiled. He knew I wanted one day to hide away, but Tom and the owner of the bar wouldn't allow it. "Would you like a cup of coffee?" I asked as I moved out of the way. "Once I come back to pick you up, I would definitely love a cup," he said as he turned to leave. I stood there watching Derek and his guys finish and then leave. I smiled as my eyes roamed the now clear driveway and sidewalk. Closing the door, I took a quick shower, got dressed, and made myself a quick dinner. I just finished my hair and makeup as there was a knock at the front door. Opening it, Derek stood there looking down at me. I moved out of the way so he could come inside. We walked into the kitchen, and as I poured him a cup of coffee, he sat down at the table. I made myself a cup as well. Sitting across from him, butterflies decided to start dancing around my stomach. "I want to thank you again for today. You don't know how much I appreciate it," I said. "Not a problem. And if we get the amount that they're talking about, I'll come by and clear it for you again. No charge. Just a nice hot cup of coffee is all," he said as he finished. "Deal," I said as I stood up. Grabbed both cups, putting them into the sink, and turning around to see Derek standing right behind me. When you're only 5'3" and Derek is well over 6'3", your neck can get a kink in it fast. We stood there looking at each other for a moment. I could see something move behind his eyes. He cleared his throat and backed off a few feet. "You ready to head to work?" he asked. "I think so," I said as I went into the bedroom, checking my hair and makeup. I put on my jacket and grabbed my purse. Once at work, I went to the back room, and Tom was standing there. Once he saw me, he had a look of relief on his face. "I was hoping you were coming into work tonight," he said. I put my stuff in my locker. I turned around and walked over to him. "I wouldn't leave you to fend for yourself," I said with a smirk on my face. He scoffed, and I was laughing as I walked out. Eric and Tiffany left as soon as I walked through the door. I went about my usual routine, checking stock, making sure everything was clear and ready just in case. The only one that was sitting at the bar was Derek. I grabbed him his beer while I kept working around the bar. Tom took inventory and was writing what we needed to reorder when Dave walked in. "Where's my favorite bartender?" Dave said as he walked over to the bar. "No idea," I said with a smile. Dave was a 30-year-old guy that was larger than life. His personality was charming if you were on his good side. Cross him, and he became a grizzly bear. He was also 6'5", had short black hair, and his eyes were as black as night. "Lucy, I was worried about you last night. I was going to stop by to see if you needed a ride home, but I saw Derek gave you a lift," Dave said as he nodded to Derek. "Thanks for that, Dave. And yeah, Derek was kind enough to drive me home," I said as I grabbed a bottle of water. After taking a few sips, the front door opened and a few people walked in. I looked at Dave with a puzzled look on my face. It was below zero out, and the snow had started to fall a bit heavier. I was surprised to see people out in this. Two of the guys sat at a table, while two other guys walked up to the bar. "What can I get you?" I asked as I stood there. Tom walked out from the back and walked behind the bar. He was near the register, watching what was going on. Glancing his way, I saw he had the same puzzled look as I had moments ago. "Just 4 beers," the one guy said as he pulled out a stack of cash. I handed him the beers and took the cash. As I was walking over to the table, I heard one of them talking about seeing if he should ask for my number. I almost laughed, but I saw Derek and Dave's expression. They both had a look of anger on their faces. "That's weird," I thought to myself. Why would they feel that way by a statement from a stranger? I blew it off, chalking up to strange things guys do. I stood there talking with Tom, Derek, and Dave for a while. I knew Dave was staying around since he was the bouncer for this bar on weekends, but occasionally he would stop by for a beer just to hang out at night. I was grateful for it, and I knew Tom was also, even though he said a few times that he could manage things if they went south. After a few hours, all 4 of the guys left. I walked over to clean the table and saw a note scribbled on a napkin along with a $20 tip. Picked up the note and snickered. Not saying a word, I walked over and handed Dave the note. I didn't say a word as I went back to the back room with the empty bottles. "You have got to be kidding me," Dave yelled out. I walked back to the bar with a smirk on my face, but still didn't say anything. Derek took the note from Dave. "To the amazing bartender. You light up the whole place. We should get to know one another. I will be back this weekend. Hopefully, you are off and want to get to know a powerful male." Tom busted out laughing. Dave looked like he was wanting to rip those guys apart. And Derek? Well, after reading the note, his face had a bit of redness to it, but a vein started to stand out on his forehead. "It's harmless," I said as I grabbed the note and tossed it into the garbage. "I would like to follow you home, just to make sure everything was okay," Derek said as he looked at me. I just nodded my head and went about cleaning up before we closed.